Dr. Elise Carter stepped out of the elevator, her heels echoing softly against the sterile white tiles of the SCP Foundation's high-security facility. The weight of her new responsibility pressed on her chest, making each breath deliberate and heavy. She adjusted the identification badge pinned to her lab coat and ventured deeper into the maze of corridors. Muted voices echoed from adjacent hallways, their tones oscillating between professional indifference and hushed concern. Elise overheard snippets of conversation as she passed two senior researchers. "Never seen anything like it before," one whispered, casting a furtive glance her way. She paused, pretending to inspect a nearby equipment panel, her ears straining to catch more. "Moves only when unobserved, they say. Saw it in Site-19 once. Bloody mess." The second researcher shuddered visibly, the memory too vivid. With a newfound curiosity, she approached her designated research lab, hoping to glean more from her colleagues about the mysterious SCP-173. Her fingers brushed over the cool metal of the lab's door handle, and she was welcomed by the soft hum of computers and the faint scent of disinfectant. As she settled into her new workspace, Elise noticed an unattended terminal with an open document titled SCP-173 Containment Protocols. Unable to resist, she leaned in, skimming the information. Her heart raced as she absorbed the instructions, continuous eye contact, no blinking. The stakes of her assignment became uncomfortably clear. A sudden commotion drew her attention. Outside the lab, personnel in hazmat suits rushed past, pushing a large, sealed container. From her vantage point, Elise couldn't discern its contents, but the container's ominous labeling, SCP-173, left no doubt. Without warning, the facility's lights flickered and died, plunging the corridor into darkness. For a heart-stopping moment, Elise felt the weight of unseen eyes upon her. A chill raced down her spine as she recalled the containment protocol's warning. Panic-induced whispers and the scuffling of feet echoed in the black void. Then, with a blinding flash, the emergency lights activated, bathing the corridor in a cold, blue hue. The aftermath was grim. Two personnel lay motionless mere feet from the now-ajar container, their necks twisted at unnatural angles. SCP-173 had moved. The facility alarm wailed, its siren a deafening reminder of the danger lurking in the shadows. As security personnel rushed to the scene, Dr. Carter took a shaky breath, realizing that the tales of SCP-173 were no mere rumors. The blinking game had begun. The lockdown siren echoed through the facility, its persistent wail a grim reminder of the terror lurking within the whitewashed walls. Doors sealed shut with pneumatic hisses, red lights flashed overhead, and monitors displayed emergency protocols. Inside the main control room, screens blinked with frenetic activity, displaying floor plans and live feeds. Personnel rushed about, their faces ashen, their voices raised in a blend of orders and frantic updates. Against this backdrop, Dr. Elise Carter's fingers danced over a terminal. Her screen displayed the haunting footage of SCP-173's lightning-fast movement, captured milliseconds before the power outage. Each replay made her heart pound harder. A hand landed on her shoulder, making her jump. "Dr. Carter." The voice was soft, concerned. She turned to see Dr. Alex Reyes, an AI specialist with sharp features and a perpetual air of concentration. "We've been summoned." They entered a spacious room, where a diverse group had gathered around an oval table. Elise recognized some from her department, but others were strangers. Experts from distant Foundation sites, she presumed. Without preamble, a senior researcher, Dr. Simmons, took the floor. "We've seen what SCP-173 can do. We're here to ensure it doesn't happen again." Hours of discussion ensued. Strategies were proposed, debated, and dismissed. Ideas ranging from increased personnel training to augmented reality headsets were considered. Elise listened, absorbing every word, until an idea began to form. Clearing her throat, she projected her terminal display onto the main screen, showing SCP-173's unsettling speed. What if we capture this in even more detail? Murmurs filled the room. Alex leaned in, intrigued. High-speed cameras? Observe its micro-movements? She nodded. It could give us insights. Behavioral patterns, weaknesses. Dr. Simmons considered the idea. Eyes narrowed. After what felt like hours, he nodded. Proceed. But with caution. Excitement tinged with trepidation. Elise and Alex set to work, converting a containment chamber into a state-of-the-art observation room. Cameras, blinking with red recording lights, covered every inch. As SCP-173 was carefully maneuvered back into this high-tech cage, Elise couldn't shake off a nagging feeling. She watched the entity, a statue with a face that seemed frozen in a perpetual scream. It felt wrong to call it just a statue. There was an intelligence there, an awareness. The experiment began. Footage streamed in, capturing the entity in unprecedented detail. But as hours turned into days, something changed. The creature, previously indifferent, now seemed to react, its head tilting ever so slightly towards the cameras. And then, calamity. A loud crash, alarms blaring, screens filled with static. SCP-173 had not just observed the cameras, it had manipulated them. Alex's voice, filled with dread, cut through the chaos. It's learning. As the containment chamber's door buckled and twisted, Elise felt a cold realization. They hadn't trapped SCP-173. They'd challenged it. And it was ready to play. The air in the facility was thick with tension, every corner echoing with hushed whispers and the distant thud of hurried footsteps. Hallways that once bustled with activity now stood eerily silent, punctuated only by the haunting glow of emergency lights. Behind a reinforced door, Elise and Alex, along with a handful of surviving personnel, pored over the facility's floor plan. Each red dot represented a fallen colleague, a grim testament to SCP-173's relentless hunt. "You think it's toying with us?" Elise asked, voice barely above a whisper. She traced the erratic pattern of SCP-173's movements, each step seemingly random, yet undeniably purposeful. Alex, his eyes bloodshot from hours of analysis, nodded. "It's not just escaping, it's learning, adapting." A nearby monitor displayed a grainy security feed showing SCP-173 paused mid-corridor. The statue-like entity seemed dormant, but its mere presence radiated malevolence. A memory surfaced. Stories whispered among Foundation personnel about SCP-173's past, its origins shrouded in mystery and fear. Some said it was a forgotten god's curse, others, a twisted art piece given life. Whatever its beginnings, its intent was clear. Unbridled malevolence. A junior researcher, Mia, interrupted Elise's thoughts. "Drones. We could use drones." The room turned to her. In her hands, she held a compact drone, its rotors silent, camera fixated forward. Elise's mind raced. "Constant surveillance. Keep it in check." Alex jumped in, enthusiasm renewed. "We trap it in the atrium, surround it, force it into containment." Hours turned into a blur as they prepped their fleet. Each drone, enhanced with AI algorithms designed by Alex, was primed to track, predict, and react to SCP-173's movements. The atrium, with its expansive glass ceiling and multi-tiered balconies, became their battleground. As drones buzzed overhead, SCP-173 entered, drawn in by their calculated bait. For moments, everything seemed to work. The entity was surrounded, each camera feed fixating on it, pinning it in place. But then, one by one, drones began to falter. Some collided, others lost power. Gaps in surveillance emerged. Elise watched in horror as SCP-173 exploited each lapse, darting closer to their makeshift control center. A plan formed. "Alex, recalibrate the drones. I'll distract it." Before he could protest, she stepped into the atrium, eyes locked onto SCP-173. Every fiber of her being screamed to blink, to look away, but she held firm. It became a dance of death. Elise moved. SCP-173 countered, each second an agonizing eternity. Then, with a triumphant roar of rotors, the drones returned, converging on SCP-173. Their combined gaze held the entity in check, forcing it back, step by step, into its containment chamber. Exhausted, battered, but alive, Elise sealed the chamber. The immediate threat contained. As the facility's lights returned to their normal glow, Elise, leaning on Alex for support, reflected on the ordeal. They had faced an unimaginable horror and survived. But the scars, both physical and mental, would linger. SCP-173's chambers stood as a silent reminder. In the world of the SCP Foundation, victory was temporary, vigilance eternal.